Peter and I sometimes get confused as twins, but we're actually super different people interested in very different aspects of what we do. I'm always really curious about how things work, where they come from, and how they go from not existing at all to being in your client's room. So we got to go to Four Hands headquarters in Austin and learn about everything they do, from the design process to the photo process to the distribution process. So we got to learn about how it all works.
I feel like your implication was that I'm not interested in anything.
My implication was that you like to look at the furniture.
I like more than that. I like to learn how the process of making happens. What I was most excited about probably was visiting the Swatch room, where the design process really begins. And for any designers out there, you've probably thought about many different ways to organize your sample library. And mundane as this trivial fact was, I thought perhaps the most interesting thing was that at Four Hands, they organized the sample library by country of origin, which is a pretty unusual thing. But anyway, I think let's go take a look at the Swatch room, which apparently was terribly boring for you.
You find out for yourself.
I'm Adam Dunn. I'm the Senior Vice President of Design at Four Hands, and today we're going to walk around our Swatch room and talk about how we do product development, look at all of our materials and testing and what's coming up in the future. Everything is organized in this direction, so it starts from like country of development all the way across, and then this is kind of cool too, all the drawers are full. Because there is no shortage of materials, but all of our wood and woven materials are up top, and then all of the drawers are like our metal swatches, our ceramic swatches, all of that kind of stuff. And so this way, it's really hard to manage. You know what I mean? Such a big material library. We actually have a full-time librarian who, like, her job is just to manage this room. Because it's big.
It would be a hard job.
Yeah, it's a feat, because you have to think too, all of these swatches get refreshed every 6 months.
Yeah.
So we'll get a new panel from all of our factories that we'll have to like sign the back of, because after 6 months, the color starts to change. So we refresh every panel in the Swatch room every 6 months, where we'll get 2 copies sent here. One we sign and send back to country of origin, and one that we keep, and we donate the other piles to UT.
Oh. They do it.
Well, they sent it to all of their like merchant development classes, and they reuse the fabric swatches, the metal swatches, all of that kind of stuff. So we're just not just dumping them. Right now we're developing in about 8 or 9 different countries. And so like we go where the experts are. Okay. So if we want to do like brass work, you know, brass, you don't go to North America for brass manufacturing, you go to India, because that's where like the expertise in the material is. So that's what kind of drives all of our FOB points and all of our different regions, is because we want to find the experts in that manufacturing type.
So what are some of the other countries that have specific themes?
Sure, like Indonesia specifically for outdoor. They do a lot of teak, a ton of teak, which is a really good wood. They do it for indoor and outdoor, but it's really the best wood for outdoor. We do a lot of our upholstery manufacturing on North America. So we either do it in Mexico or in the US, because that's really where like the skill set is. Yeah. Glass work again is in India. Woven work would be Indonesia. So it's really kind of like, it depends on the material, and that's kind of where we drive all of our designs, because that's where they're best at it.
How does it work if you're mixing specialties on the one product? Or do you just avoid doing that?
No.
Ship it around the world?
Well, we can do some things like in country. Like we're working on a cast glass and wood design right now, and those are 2 like very different specialties, right? And so cast glass in an effective manufacturing way you can really only do in India, but they're in different cities. So like all of the glass manufacturing is Moradabad, all of the wood manufacturing is Jodhpur, and we have to find a way to marry that up in country. So we can like marry like in the same country, but if you're starting to marry like at 2 different FOB points, it just gets really messy. Like you won't have inventory in time, or your pieces just don't fit together really well, honestly.
You don't think about how much stuff goes into just, you know, you just see the finished thing in the showroom and you're like, oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a lot of legwork, man. I mean, even if you like look, so the cool thing is like all of these finishes are current and actively selling on Four Hands product. Oh, wow. Yeah, so none of these are development swatches. These are all, they're called like an MCP or a DCP. An MCP is our master color panel, DCPs are our development color panels, and these are all masters. So these are all the finishes that get refreshed, and you can see it's really cool. So right now you can see the countries. So here's Mexico, Indonesia, here's Vietnam, and it's a really wide array of different material sets. So there's concretes, marbles, water transfer stones, tons and tons of woods. So it's really cool. Like even these are pretty awesome where we're doing, this is like a water transfer, but it looks like travertine. So we're able to actually pit and create texture into the concrete substrate. And then you'll actually go over to the art studio today and you'll see like a really similar process where they're putting like the artwork over top of the substrate, and as the longer you keep it in the water, the darker the color gets. And usually these can get kind of really cheap looking, to be honest, right? But once you start to add the texture into the substrate, it actually starts to feel more like a real material.
We interrupt this video to bring you a public service announcement. Did you know that in the US, there are about 120,000 interior designers? And on average, each one is paying him or herself less than minimum wage? We don't like that, which is part of the reason we founded Daniel House Club. We used to be in a similar boat.
We used to pay ourselves less than minimum
We
wage.
did. It was really challenging, and even with a fairly quickly scaling design business. So we built Daniel House Club in order to make it really easy for interior designers to actually build successful, self-sustaining careers. It's a simple platform. We have no minimum orders. We built excellent customer service, and we put all the vendors and all the products in one spot so you can just find what you want, check out, and move on to taking care of your client.
Damage is inevitable in our industry. Like, it would be a lie for us to say, hey, you're never gonna experience damage. That's insane. But at Daniel House, we know that we need to help you all the way until your client is looking at a beautiful piece of furniture that they ordered and is completely satisfied. So our concierge services team is always here to help you. They're here to help manage your logistical nightmares and work with our vendors and our shippers to make it right for you. I love that degree of hand-holding. I'm someone who stresses out easily, and I just like, no, not from you. And I find that like such a relief. We think that you will too if you're a designer, and you should become a member today, either by using the link below or simply visiting danielhouse.club. It will be wonderful to no longer act as a procurement agent and instead spend the time designing that you always imagined you would.
And get paid.
Yes, key, get paid.
Back to the video.
All of our textile swatches are in here, and I mean, this is just all of our active fabrics that are working too. This is like everybody's favorite shelf, but it is the most dangerous, all the marble swatches, so you have to watch your fingers. But like, this is a really cool one. This is on like the Amber Lewis collection, which is really great. That's the Figueroa marble. Yeah. So, but it's cool. We're actually moving away from like the fancy high-end marbles and actually going back to like lower cost local stones, because they feel older, they feel aged, there's a lot more character, and they feel less polished. So we're doing a lot more with like granites, galaxy stones, soapstones again, things like that.
What's a fancy marble?
Like Carrara or like Calicotta, which is cool, right? Those marbles are really, really pretty, but we kind of want that like age and like depth of the material.
How do you consider like shipping in the design process? Like shipping marble stuff is going to be expensive, I would assume, or is it similar because it's the same size?
It is. So it comes down to like the construction of everything too. So like we can KD a lot of our marble designs in ways where you don't see the construction mechanism, so we can still kind of like break that piece apart. It is design by design. So for like this dining table Figueroa that this marble's on, because we wanted to have a turned marble base, we had to work in solids to do the lathing to get that shape. So that's like a 500-pound dining table, right? You know what I mean? So like, I get it. But it's the balance, right? So it's like how we use marble in some pieces to be those big hero statement items, and then how we can use it in different ways to make it a little bit easier. Design people we're pretty pie in the sky, right? Like if it's awesome, we want to do it. But you do have to be kind of realistic about like what's movable, and not just like for the customer, but how we can actually physically store the item. Racks are only so big. So when you get to like an 11-foot table, they usually won't fit in the racks in the warehouse. So we have to give them like a heads up and notification and say, hey, these items are coming, please prepare for them, all that. When there is a new product type, we have to go through like these really, there's amazing process people at Four Hands, and design people are not them. But they like, yeah, but they give us like, we have defined process for if it's a new product type, if it requires special handling, or if it's like a new launch that requires support from other departments. We go through these really structured processes to make sure everybody has an awareness to it. We go through our packaging specifications and just make sure that the product can actually be successful as like a product and not just like a design. We're a super design driven company. We like to push boundaries, create new concepts and things like that. So we're 2025's in bed, right? We're done with 25. We're working on 26 in about 3 months. Nina, my associate design director, and I are going to start writing 27. So we try and like forecast out really, really far into the future to get ahead of it. And it's always it doesn't really start with design. It just starts with like how people want to live. Right, so we kind of look at like how we believe people will be living in the year of launch, right? The year that we're launching the product. And from that idea, we call it like the insights section of our brief. And like when we break down how we see people will be living, that means there will be product attributes, design attributes, material attributes to answer that. And so we kind of create that roadmap first, and then the design stories feed up into it.
How are people living differently in 2025 than they were last year?
There hasn't been any like huge, major shifts. So like it's weird. So like I don't feel like design ever takes like a giant right turn. Do you know what I mean? It kind of like slowly curves. And I hate talking about it, but the pandemic like really changed everything. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And so that changed how people buy, how people live, the types of materials they want, what makes you feel good. Do you know what I mean? Like what makes you feel good totally changed after COVID. So like we had to answer that stuff. And so like in 25, the big lifestyle stories that we're gonna be talking about, our first one's called like restorative. And it's all about creating spaces that make you feel better at home. You know, they're starting to go out more, but you're still entertaining at home. You want your space to feel like very personal. You want it to be yours, and you want it to feel like a sense of relief when you go home. So that means we're doing more like, deep texture, sensory-based textiles, sensory-based woods, ambient lighting. So like we're doing faux plants this year, which is crazy. I never thought that I would do a faux plant, but it's a product type that people need, right? And people want that sense of like, relief at home.
Pre-pandemic, what are some of the things that you could sell all day long that you just right after that you couldn't?
It's a really good question. I would say like really, really showy pieces of furniture. So I feel like it was this idea of your home being more of like a gallery. Do you know what I mean? And people were really chasing brands, aesthetics. So like they wanted like these flashier, really cool statement pieces that you never expected to sit in, or you never expected to like eat dinner at your dining table. Do you know what I mean? So materials could be a little bit softer. They could be more specialty driven, and that's had to change. We're like, you really do, like, we want you to eat at your dining table. We want you to sit in your sofa, and that's how people want to live. And we have to create new products to let them live all over their house, and their product needs to move with them around the house. And so it's just a lot different. There's all of the rugs and textiles that we're working on, all of our leather swatches. We kind of group it too and break it down. That's really easy for a lot of our product development teams, so they can come in. We have like master rings. So these are all just like the major handles where we maybe selected like one colorway. If it starts to be successful, we can go back to the handle and see if we want to go deeper into those colors and things like that. So we've got like all of these individual handles, and this is we have one person who just keeps up on all of the textile handles and all of the rings too, because there's so many to manage.
Separate from the librarian.
Separate from the librarian, yeah. We have a full textile and soft good assortment. So we've got a big rug assortment. We go from really high-end, hand knotted to machine woven, all the way down to some printed technology that's actually really good. Yeah. And same for like pillows and textiles. We do some really great specialty things, a lot of cut and sew, but we've got a really robust assortment. Cool. This is where we're starting to plan all of the materials for 2026. So this is just sort of like our big working brainstorm. We were looking for specific price point targets, specific colors, materials, all of that kind of stuff. And so we got like a really great, we have our creative direction needs and our assortment needs that are given to us by the merchant team, and we kind of have to marry those two up. So it's like what's new and what are the white spaces. And so like you can see where we're looking for a lot of like bleach tones, woods, bleach tones, which I don't think are as trendy, but is something that's definitely missing inside of our assortment. Woods are shifting really dark again this year, which I personally like. But there's definitely still a customer need for that. And then you can see where we build out the color stories. Here's all of our color driver materials where we'll be doing like more lacquer again, like really high gloss materials. And that can be the big color drivers, also high gloss in concrete. It's really, really cool, right? These swatches are awesome. Like, and the colors are just really, really pretty, but this is on like a concrete swatch where we're doing like that high gloss material.
That's amazing. What is the process to?
It's just like doing like a lacquer process. So it's a paint and then you go into a clean room with like 100% sheen, like I think it's a PU, and they just spray it to get that really high mirrored reflection. Cool. So this is where I feel like when we're kind of talked about like decorator materials and all of that kind of stuff, like how we reinvent them. So we're doing a lot again with painted linen, but we're doing these really pretty colors like natural linens, deep blues, these deep greens.
What'll that be on?
Like sideboards, nightstands, media pieces, occasional. It won't be on like a dining table, you know what I mean? More of like a case goods. Isn't this cool? Like this is just a new woven material. Yeah, the colors aren't right because it's really, really yellow. Yeah, all of our notes. But yeah, I mean, I feel like this is where everything kind of really starts and where it gets to be really, really fun. And this is where our teams, my product development team is all over the world, right? Our designers are constantly traveling, and every time they go somewhere, they find new materials. So like cast glass is killing it. We've been looking to do more water glass, and like the color's beautiful, the pattern's really nice, and trying to figure out how we can apply these to designs in the next coming years.
Do you ever get materials that you're like, this is so cool, I want to do something with it, but I have no idea what?
Yeah. They kind of all start that. There's one that I can like. They all kind of start that way, but like we've been looking at. Let me see if I can find it. It's actually we find those materials where the idea is really great, but it's actually really ugly. Let's see if I can find it. It's this really cool technique that I'm really excited about. We saw it in Paris, and then I can't find it, but it's essentially a really sheer textile sandwich between two pieces of glass. I bet that's cool. Yeah, it's really, really cool. Like, it was a really interesting, oh, here it is. Like the swatches that we have are really ugly, but we'll make them really cool. So it's like, here's the concept. Yeah, and they're real sparkly and they look terrible, right? So it's the wrong material between there, but this idea of like, instead of doing like a fluted glass or a frosted glass, but this like muted transparency in glass, doing it with a textile, we think is really, really cool. It's just our first pass was really bad, you know?
I like the concept.
Yeah, but the concept is good, right?
I have one more question for you. What is your training to do a job like this?
I have a really weird career path. So I have a business degree. Okay. So number one, I grew up, my mom has really, really great taste. And my mom's, yeah, it really does help. My mom's house is amazing and she is an antique person. So like I grew up in a really, a mom with a really good sense of style. I went to school for business. Well, actually I went to school, dropped out, went back to school, finished in like my mid-20s. And then I just moved to Chicago and I was a bartender. I was having a party at my house in my apartment in Chicago, and this like random girl came over and asked to design my apartment and if I was looking for a job. And so like I started another company designing their showrooms. A year later, they asked me to join their product development team, and then 18 years later, I'm here at Four Hands as SVP. So a lot of the strongest product developers that I've met and worked with throughout the years didn't go to design school. I think you need to be really successful as a product. There's two different things, right? You can be a product developer or you can be a designer. Yeah. Designers are really concept driven. They can maybe make something really great that can only be made one time. Yeah. And a product developer can find a really great design and a really good idea that can go through manufacturing cycle and live for 7 years, right? So it's like two different skill sets.
Okay, cool. Thanks for the tour.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Amazing.
Thank you guys.
Appreciate it.